You know how messed up American society is today? If you want to know how messed up we are, just look at our heroes. Look at the people that we emulate, the people that we prop up and say, this is someone you should listen to, and this is a valuable individual, and so on and so forth. That'll reveal a lot about us. In the society of Isaiah's day, the heroes had become heroes of drinking wine and mixing strong drink. The heroes were not people of righteousness and virtue, but instead they were good at handling their liquor. They're good at throwing a party. They were good at getting away with evil. They managed to find a way to get away with doing what they want. Those are the heroes. That's who the kids looked up to. They looked up to the guy, the thug, the jerk, the villain in many ways. And down went their society. Now, it didn't start there, of course. It started, if you're traveling with me through Isaiah, it starts with ignoring God. It moves to forgetting God. It comes down to after you've forgotten him, you start to mock him, make fun of the belief in him and the understanding of what he brings to the table. And then now that you've mocked him and brought him down to your level, you remove him from society as best you can. And then you prop up a new God, which is self, or the collective government becomes God. But then you've got to start ruling as God, because the new sovereign has to start dictating new laws and saying how things should be. What is truly right and wrong now has to be imposed rather than just talked about. This new moral order, by the time you come to verse 22, sounds so absurd that here are your heroes. Woe to those who are heroes in drinking wine, and valiant men in mixing strong drink. Notice that what's put in front of us here. When you think of a hero, you don't think of some goofball at a frat party who can drink the most wine. But that's what had happened. And that's what happens a lot in our world now. A valiant man, when you think of a valiant individual, I think of, a knight slaying a dragon, saving the princess, kind of bravery, courage, virtuous people. No, not now that you no longer have the moral implications and wisdom of God as the standard. Now the standard is, whatever. What is it that people think matters? Now, if you see TikTok at all, it's who's got the best dance moves, who can do the best synchronized moves to music. What? But that's heroes now, right? We've fallen, not maybe exactly into their exact same situation, but it's the same arbitrary nonsense because you don't have the divine perspective. It's been removed. It's been mocked and removed, and now our new standard is what we have, just like they were facing. Notice further, verse 23, the woe is now turned from the heroes of drinking to those who justify the wicked for a bribe. It always goes this way, right? I mean, as a society loses its understanding of justice, true justice from on high, from God, it all descends into bribery. Do we actually think that our politicians, our ruling elites, and so on and so forth, and just our super wealthy people in America don't get away with things that the rest of us, can't? Do we really think that, the billionaires can't get away with things? Do we really think they get the same trial if they go to court as you and me? Do we really think that? I don't. I mean, I've watched enough trials over the years to see if you got enough money, you get good enough lawyers, they're able to change things. Right? It's disturbing, to say the least, to find that justice is perverted, twisted, contorted by bribery. Who justify the wicked for a bribe, justifying, declaring them to be righteous. This wicked person, we're saying they're righteous now. And furthermore, and take away the rights of the one who are in the right. Well, this is hard to ignore, isn't it? What do we do when justice gets perverted? Well, we start to, if we're on the majority side, we start to figure out how do we oppress the people that aren't on our team. A one-party system that gets in a direction to where, look, the opposition needs to be, either silenced or eradicated or some derivative thereof. That's what society descends to without God. Without Him, we don't really know what's right or wrong. We've removed the fear of God. We don't care what He has to say. We don't have a humility to learn from Him. And now we got to come up with our own standard. And so what's left? We're left to establish our own heroes, establish our own way of thinking and living and worldview. And then it always spirals into some form of selfishness and controlling the lives of other people. So the things that we're seeing today, the things that we're seeing in the world today are predictable. And more than that, they ought to be reminders. Reminders of so many things. Look, this world is not our home. We're sojourners and pilgrims passing through. This is also a reminder that my hope is not in mankind or in legislation, but my hope is in God. My hope is in Him and His word. I know He has delivered. I know He took care of His faithful remnant then, and He will do so today. So there's not a reason for despair. There's a reason for prayer. There's a reason to dedicate our times of prayer, even at times, to the world situation. But what is it that I should primarily be praying about? That the gospel would flourish, that we would be willing to speak the truth to those around us, that we wouldn't shell up and be afraid, that we wouldn't be ashamed of the gospel, but that we would believe that it is the power of God to save and embrace that, truly believe that message and share that. What hope do we have but God? What fortress do we have but God? What other rock is there but God? There is no other. There is our hope. So I look at, culture, and I see reasons for despair. I look within, I see reason for depression. But I look to God, and I have rest in the Prince of Peace. What a hope we have in the midst of the darkest of times. This is not meant I don't mean to look at society in a way to make a person depressed like watching the news. We have answers. We have hope. We don't weep as those who don't have hope. We have tremendous wealth in Christ. We have been blessed in the heavenly places with all the spiritual blessings. May that be reflected in our lives. And we have a joy in the midst of trial. Thank you for joining me.